Today's story's title is The Great Pumpkin Heist. Let's get started. It was the night before Halloween, and the small town of Whimsy Pines was buzzing with excitement. For the residents, Halloween was not just a time for costumes and candy. It was a full-on competition. Every year, the most extravagant, over-the-top pumpkin display won the coveted title of King of Halloween, and the prize was legendary: a giant golden pumpkin trophy, as well as a year's supply of free pumpkin pie from the local bakery. This year, however, things were different. There was an unexpected twist to the competition. Someone was determined to steal the title, and it all started with a rumor about an unassuming pumpkin patch at the edge of town. Benny and Clara Westbrook had lived in Whimsy Pines for their entire lives. As kids, they had helped their parents carve pumpkins for the annual contest. But this year, they had decided to take matters into their own hands. Benny, the older of the two, had a reputation for being a little wild. Clara, on the other hand, was methodical, always planning things to the last detail. They made a great team. "We're going to win this thing, Clara," Benny said as he lifted a massive pumpkin from the Westbrook family patch. It was the size of a small Buddha and practically glowing under the light of the full moon. "This one's got legendary written all over it." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Isn't that the same pumpkin we had last year? We got second place, remember?" Benny grinned. "This time, I've got a secret weapon." At that moment, a loud crash echoed through the quiet night. A shadow darted past them, moving so quickly it nearly knocked over a few of the smaller pumpkins. The two siblings froze. "Did you hear that?" Clara whispered. "Probably just a raccoon," Benny said with a shrug. Thought his voice betrayed his own unease. Still, he wasn't one to back down from a challenge. "Let's get this pumpkin to the judging spot before anyone else sees it." But as they approached the center of town, they realized they were too late. All around the town square were pumpkins, large and small, in every imaginable shape and color. Some had been carved into elaborate scenes: a haunted house, a pirate shape, a castle surrounded by glowing bats. But then Benny and Clara spotted something strange. In the middle of the town square, where the golden pumpkin trophy was usually displayed, stood nothing, a massive empty space, and in its place a sign hung from a nearby lamppost with the words, "The Great Pumpkin Heist has begun." Clara gasped. Oh no, someone's taken the trophy. Or worse, Benny said dramatically. They have taken all the pumpkins. They rushed over to the old-fashioned wooden cart that had been set up for the pumpkin judging, and sure enough, the cart was empty. The pumpkins were gone. Who would do something like this? Clara exclaimed. I know exactly who did this, Benny said, narrowing his eyes. The Vanice family. The Vanices had always been the Westerbrook's biggest rivals in the Halloween competition. They lived just outside of town in a creepy Victorian-style house covered in vines, which looked like it could have been pulled straight out of a haunted movie set. For the past 10 years, the Vanices had won first place with their insanely elaborate pumpkin displays. Pumpkins that glowed from within, carved to perfection with their eerie, lifelike details. It was said they had some kind of secret pumpkin, coven magic passed down through generations. We need to get those pumpkins back, Clara said, determination in her voice, and stop them from winning again. Agreed, Benny said. But we are going to need a plan. No way we are letting them get away with this. The siblings quickly gathered their supplies. A couple of flashlights, Benny's trusty grappling hook, and Clara's notebook full of carefully thought out ideas. They set out to find the Venice house and recover the stolen pumpkins before dawn. The moon was high in the sky as they crept through the woods toward the Venice mansion. Strange noises echoed around them. Twigs snapping, the hoot of an owl, and the occasional rustle of leaves. Clara held tightly to her flashlight, while Benny led the way with his grappling hook in hand. This is kind of spooky, Clara whispered. Benny shackled. Don't worry, I've watched enough horror movies to know how to handle creepy houses. As they approached the mansion, the shadows seemed to stretch and loom over them, casting long, sinister shapes. But Benny was undeterred. We are getting those pumpkins back, he said, his eyes shining with mischievous excitement. Inside the mansion, the Venice family was holding their annual pre-Halloween pumpkin celebration, which involved a bizarre mixture of old rituals and pumpkin-related festivities. Benny and Clara snuck inside through a slightly ajar window. They crept through the hallways, avoiding the giant portraits of grim-looking Venice ancestors watching them from the walls. Then they heard it, the sound of laughter coming from a large room at the back of the house. They peered round the corner and saw the Venice family gathered around a massive fireplace, laughing and chatting as they prepared their pumpkins for the contest. But there, at the center of the room, was the largest pumpkin Benny and Clara had ever seen, sitting on a golden pedestal, and standing next to it was the golden pumpkin trophy. Benny's eyes widened. They stole it. Clara's mind raced. We can't just waltz in there and grab it. We need a distraction. Benny grinned. Leave that to me. He quickly moved to a nearby shelf and knocked over a few glass jars, sending a loud crash through the room. The Venice family jumped to their feet, startled by the noise. Who goes there? Mr. Venice shouted, his voice deep and menacing. Benny and Clara darted to the corner, hiding behind a large tapestry. As they crouched loud, Clara whispered, "What now?" Benny pulled out his grappling hook and threw it over a nearby chandelier. Now, we make our grand escape. With a yank, the hook latched onto the chandelier, and Benny swung toward the golden pedestal, grabbed the trophy, and threw it to Clara. The two siblings rushed out of the room, darting through the mansion with the Venice family hot on their heels. They burst through the front door and into the night, laughing as they sprinted down the overgrown path. Behind them, the sound of the Venice family shouting for them to come back grew faint as they reached the edge of town. The next morning, when the sun rose over Whimsy Pines, Benny and Clara placed the golden pumpkin trophy in the center of the town square where it had always belonged. The townspeople marveled at their bravery, but Benny and Clara just exchanged a grin. "Looks like we won this year," Benny said, holding up the golden trophy. "Yeah, but next year we need a bigger pumpkin," Clara replied with a wink. The end.